O most pernicious woman, O villain, villain, smiling, damned villain. Betty is so pretty. Pretty eyes, pretty hair, shapely mouth, nice figure. Perfect, really. Perfectly pretty Betty. Which is nice. But how many times has it happened? Pretty Betty is just out enjoying the day, hanging out at her favorite local bistro for some warm tea and a toasty romance novel, just minding her own business, keeping her own company. Then it always begins the same way with the same basic formula. Step 1. From out of nowhere, some guy will magically appear at Betty's table. Step 2. He will apologize for any intrusion, but naturally continue anyway. Step 3. Introduces himself, then jumps straight to the usual shallow compliments on Betty's good looks. Sensing she wishes to be alone, but finding her complete and absolute lack of interest in him simply too irresistible to, well, resist, this everyman sits and joins her without hesitation and regardless of any indication or invitation to do so. Just like that. Congratulations. Mission accomplished. The ego has landed. And finally, step 4, the proposition. Usually something like, you know, baby, I was thinking we should blow this joint and ... Pretty much the same formula every time with only a few minor variations. All because so many misguided men foolishly believe that they are entitled to impose themselves onto Pretty Betty because they associate a pretty face with being helpless and vulnerable. Betty is neither.
Perfectly pretty Betty, prettiest girl in the room. Don't ever get too close or it may be your doom. Perfectly pretty Betty, she is the one to look for. If you're not careful, she will lead you to the door. Then no more. She'll want to hold you so close, but you'll find that's nothing to boast about. Perfectly pretty Betty, she will do nothing to you. Suddenly then that smile appears and a trouble brews. Perfectly pretty Betty, innocent, clueless Betty. Everything seems right with the world that you live in. With that grin, she'll want to hold you so close, but you'll find that's nothing to boast about. Perfectly pretty Betty, sitting there looking so fine. It's all that men can do, just not to lose their minds. Perfectly pretty Betty, she's the one to watch out for. If you're not careful, she will lead you to the door. Then no more.
There was the incident with a Mr. Larry Barnes. Larry, a 40-something-year-old architect, spotted Betty in a restaurant one evening. A particularly impressive feat in that the place was quite dimly lit, and Pretty Betty was all the way on the other side of it. But hey, there's something to be said for practice. So old Larry advances on Betty, his sweaty, gap-toothed smile leading the charge. He then proceeds to, the formula. Several drinks later, Mr. Larry Barnes excuses himself to pay the bill. He's excited and looking forward to yet another night of meaningless sex. What can it hurt? And after all, what old Larry's wife didn't know wouldn't kill him. There she is, all alone. There she is, far from home. I'm gonna walk right up and get her name. All by herself, let's play the game. Can't help myself, I must be insane. If I pass this up, it would be a shame. And there she is, all alone. Oh, there she is, far from home. May I join you, dear? That's what I'll say. Whether or not you say it's okay, I'll tell her how pretty she looks today. Let's blow this joint, baby, I want to play. There she is, ooh, all alone. There she is, far from home. Ooh, let's get going, there's much to do. Oh, the things I'll do to you. There's the way out to my car. My apartment isn't very far. And there she is. The drive back to Larry's secret shag shack doesn't take long. It was close by for just these kinds of special occasions. It was his way of keeping a low profile. No paper trail or electronic footprints in any local hotels to be found out. He figured this would be the smartest and safest way to protect himself. They arrive shortly, and once inside, it isn't long before old Larry, the architect, is down to his skivvies, eagerly ready to embrace whatever designs the now smiling Betty had for him. Little did he know that night would end according to her plans. Last night I had a dream that things are not what they seem. This feeling of doubt inside makes me shout. To solve this small mystery, I need you to come with me. Then all this fear held inside can be pushed far aside, or so it seems. And I'm feeling like it's my lucky day. Everything is going my way. My lucky, lucky, unlucky day. Suddenly I'm kind of afraid. When I first looked at you, it was like a dream come true. And when that smile aimed at me, I knew just where I should be. A stroke of good luck for we shall reach such ecstasy. It's just for one night, it's alright, it's not like anyone will ever know. Ooh. So I'm feeling like it's my lucky day. Everything is going my way. My lucky, lucky, unlucky day. Suddenly I'm kind of afraid. to save the day. Pretty Betty awakens the next morning feeling energized and happy. And why shouldn't she? Having no memory of her alter ego's murderous activities the night before. A pleasant side effect of the blackouts. Over the years, Betty had created a mental list of sorts, a personal inventory of completely reasonable excuses she used to explain away the gaps, the missing time. There were the many factors that could cause this. Fainting spells aren't that uncommon. People do pass out. Mixing alcohol with certain prescription sleep medication can create impaired involuntary motor function. There are those genetically predisposed to pathogenic fugue states, deep sleepwalking comparable to hypnosis. Maybe she just had a touch of the narcolepsy. Being a dissociative, psychopathic, serial-killing predator of man with a completely separate personality where neither identity is aware of each other's existence, no, somehow that one never made the list. But thankfully, any apprehension or concern is completely occluded from the mind of perfectly pretty Betty. And everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Don't think that I am out of my mind. Everything's swell. Don't know that I am going to hell. I won't tell. The sun shining brightly and warm on my face. Clueless that someone is taking my place. Everything's fine. Don't think that I am out of my mind. Everything's swell. I tell myself that nobody's dead. I lie instead, happy and free, not to worry all day. Terrible dreams haunting me fade away. Everything's fine. Don't think that I am out of my mind. Everything's swell. Don't know that I am going to hell. You won't tell. Once in a while it seems time skips a beat, but I have no reason to feel incomplete. Everything's fine. I tell myself that all is okay. Everything's gay, chases all the bad things away. Go away, cheerfully waking to greet each new day. Happy to be alive, grateful to say everything's fine. Don't think that I am out of my mind. Everything's swell. Don't know that I am going to hell. I won't tell. I won't tell. Go to hell.
There was one of Betty's more recent victims, Mr. Darren Briggs. Darren, a small man with big ideas for himself and his future, stumbles upon Pretty Betty one afternoon as she patiently waits at a bus stop. Darren thought himself quite an accomplished photographer and knew a pretty face when he saw one. His usual tactic was to use magic words and flatter Betty into doing a photo shoot of her to use for the cover of his newest office brochure for his plastic surgery practice. After going through all the usual tired compliments, Darren's last-ditch baby, you got the face of a movie star, must have done the trick. Before departing, he turns for a few moments, phone business. When he turns back around, well, guess she was into it after all, with that big old grin now plastered all over her face. Offering to take Pretty Betty to his studio for a no-strings-attached one-on-one photo session, that was Darren's way in. Smiling Betty allowing him to take her there, his way out.
In my face again, don't really see you there. Calling me to you, I don't even care. Bet you'd love me pretty and we'd be such a hit. Won't try to make you love me, what a perfect fit. Pretty bitches facing me, why don't you go and let me be? Pretty witches, chase them down, drink you up, watch me drown. There you stand so fair, a beauty to behold. You could be a star, I'm sure you've been told. There's no way to know the person you could be. A bitter fruit to taste, a song played out of key. Pretty bitches facing me, why don't you go and let me be? Those freaky witches, chase them down, drink you up, watch me drown.
A local award winner and gifted plastic surgeon, Mr. Briggs's constant bluster about his victories both in and out of the bedroom was more than enough to carry the conversation for both of them. Darren preferred it that way, women who didn't talk too much, not when he always had so much to say, and being his own favorite subject, he never ran out of things to talk about. Imagine his surprise when, in the end, it was smiling Betty who had the final word.
One cloud can only make
So much rain.
one heart can only take.
So much pain.
All serial killers have a profile. Betty is no exception. Her victims so far are usually Caucasian, male, middle-aged-ish, usually affluent professionals with perceived status or position, often married. Substantial forensic evidence from each murder has been collected. All the usual fingerprints, bits of hair, fluid samples, everywhere. But crime scene evidence is useful in identifying a potential person of interest only if it can be connected to a suspect who has been arrested before and said evidence entered into the Department of Corrections criminal database. Since Betty had never been arrested, not so much as an overdue library book, there are none of the usual physical tells on file for her. To baffled law enforcement agencies and crime scene investigators, as far as suspects go, theirs is a ghost. The only actual evidence of Betty's existence, the succession of dead bodies left behind her. A trail of decomposing breadcrumbs leading back to no one. Betty, the entity without identity.
Bodies here, corpses there. I can't find you anywhere. Come and gone. Fingerprints everywhere. Fluid samples, bits of hair. She's a blonde. All these men that I see piling up all around me, lying dead. It's my job to find who is the one that's killing you. Oh, my head. 'Cause she's the entity without identity. I'm never gonna find you like this. The entity without identity. What's her embrace? Death's last kiss. When I talk to the ones, they see victims having fun till the end. First they drink, then they dance, hoping that they'll have a chance with their new friend. Who are you? Why are you doing the things that you do? Can't you stop? Can't predict where you'll be, yet you seem to follow me. Make it stop. 'Cause she's the entity without identity. I'm never gonna catch you like this. The entity without identity. What's her embrace? The entity without identity. I'm never gonna find you like this. Entity without identity. What's her embrace? Death's last kiss.
The play's the thing wherein to catch the conscience of a maniac. But why the smile? One-on-one time back in the day with Betty's father could have gone better. A man of wealth and prestige, the pressure to maintain them takes their toll. Instead of his drinking taking the edge off, it cuts much more deeply than he could have ever imagined. There were always the heartfelt apologies from father after their quality time together, showing his little princess just how much he loved his special girl, as he often did with her mother, and showing just how much love can hurt. There, in the dark, having things done to her, abuses no innocent should ever have to experience or endure. So inside helpless Betty's fragile young mind, the only method of coping left to her was to disappear deep into herself and hide, while swapping one identity for the other. Let it all happen to her imaginary friend, the other Betty, the one father liked, the smiling Betty. Father never hurt her. It was the other one. She needed to be protected at all costs. All it takes is a smile, then everything's fine. Before leaving her bedroom, Betty's father would pat her on the head
and tell her what a pretty smile she had. Heading for the door, he would always pause for a moment and turn back to look at her, smiling that smile. The unforgettable image forever seared into the unconscious psyche of Betty's poor mind.
When I was young so long ago, my spirit bright and pure, a troubled father came to me, unsure. All by myself, my only company. No one else, just me with me, lonely.
I loved you so, my dear princess in white, wanted to hold you close, too tight. A father's calloused touch, abusing love. I beg forgiveness from above.
Tell me, how could something good be twisted into sin? Smiling hides heaven's shade, death's grin.
Stars falling from the sky, leaving it black. Say that you love me, dear, come back.
Should I forgive? I never will. We've grown too far
Place to start.
inside myself. I hide myself in your heart. In your
The thought I might be out of my depth playing detective somehow eluded me, just as Betty had done with law enforcement. If I could somehow find her, think of the benefits to modern criminal psychology dissecting a mind like hers could bring. What a subject. What a bestseller. Fancying myself psychology's answer to Mike Hammer, I started my own casual investigation. Newspaper clippings had the various venues of some of Betty's victims, so I casually began frequenting those. Once there, I would nonchalantly scan the place for any pretty, seemingly available women sitting alone, wondering if it might be her, if I might get lucky. But to no avail. Eventually, from a lack of result and the whole thing feeling a little ridiculous, my interest as well as my desire to continue the pursuit faded. I retired my brief career as an amateur sleuth and moved on to other things. Time passed. It was at the university library. I was returning some overdue books when I am suddenly startled by what I thought was someone firing a gun. This was America, after all.
I quickly turned to look, but no lone gunman this time, only a very attractive blonde woman sitting alone at a small table, looking down in the direction of a large book that had apparently gotten too close to the edge and fallen, striking the hard tile floor below, imitating the sound of a gunshot. Proving chivalry isn't dead, I move in her direction to help. Next thing you know, the woman is no longer alone, just as Betty had planned.
Loving every minute we're together, promising my life forever and ever. And I'm loving every minute we're together, cherishing my love, leaving you never. And I'm loving every minute we're together, promising my love forever and ever. And I'm loving every minute we're together, cherishing my love, leaving you never.
I slowly began to regain consciousness. The inside of my head is pounding and feels like it's been stomped on. Hard. Difficult to concentrate. How long have I been out? What day is it? Meanwhile, Betty's been busy. My arms bound at the wrist, tied by experienced hands. Can't get free even if I had the strength to struggle. Very weak. The veins have been cut vertically and deep. I'm bleeding out. Can't cry for help. Something stuffed in my mouth. Well, shit. I'm in trouble, and I know it. My mind races. How did she get me? What did she use to... Oh, right. The damn coffee. Well, shit. I thought I could crack any shell, get anyone to talk to me. I was so smart, Mr. Psychology. Betty talked for hours. No wonder she was so forthcoming, getting it all out. She knew I would never live to tell her story. From the very start, I was the fly, and Betty the pretty succulent flower, waiting to close in on me. Waiting patiently, knowing all the time it's always been just a matter of time, until the next victim is irresistibly drawn to the pretty flower. Diabolical. But now, hindsight and analysis are useless weapons in a war of madness. My spirit is drifting. I feel detached, as if I'm watching a movie I've seen before with an ending I no longer care about. Floating now, everything looks far away. No pain. I am euphoric. My final thought is wondering how long it will be until someone discovers my body, and if they'll ever catch her. Oh well, this is goodbye, my, oh my. Gonna die, bye-bye. I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. Too late to cry, no point in why. This is goodbye, my oh my. Gonna die, bye-bye. Ha, you're gonna fry, you're gonna fry. Think you're so sly, won't see me cry. I'm feeling high, my oh my. Gonna die, bye-bye. Little Miss Shy, little Miss Lie, thought I would try to be the guy to find out why. My oh my, gonna die, my. The end is nigh, the end is nigh. My soul will fly into the sky. This is goodbye, my oh my. Gonna die, bye-bye. I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. Too late to cry, no point in why. This is goodbye, my oh my. Gonna die, bye-bye. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. I can smile whilst I murder. Cry content to that which grieves my heart, wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face for all occasions.